the next part of the proceedings is to absent friends, and we've got absent friends. I mean, we have got friends, obviously, and some of them are absent, and some of them have passed on, and were duly remembered in the list. Thank you, Glenn, for that. It brought back some great memories. Just those names, and just thinking about them as well. I think you can see from the WhatsApp feed, the engagement and the enjoyment. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, Harry had to get involved when it started to get a bit political, and we started to get a bit. It got a bit. It got a bit military for a while, and that was scary, obviously.
Well done, Harry.
So well done, Harry. And then it did get a bit political, and the American guys got a bit defensive about old Biden. So that. So then religion. The religion didn't really feature, so which is a pity really, because Harry could have stepped on that as well. and the quality of the sex was very disappointing. It really was. But what it's done is it's connected the guys from all over the place, and I think so for the States, bless them really. It can't be easy. You can't get in and out of Australia or New Zealand for love or money. You're screwed. So it's reliant on the other ambassadors to fly the flag for them, and we do with a sense of honour and a sense of decency, obviously. But I thought that it's been wonderful. The band has been fantastic. It's been lovely to see that the guys are still alive, number one, and still have a sense of humour, number two. So that's all good. The Jewish tree and the Greek table. There was Richard, and he's no longer here. And Gregory Sinclair Hawken was the guy that I missed particularly. I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with him after school, and one of the constants in my life was every time we hooked up, he'd say, "Dave, I've got a new girlfriend." So he probably did, to be fair. She can't wrestle, but you should see her box. And I love Gregory with all my heart, and I miss him terribly.
He said the best place to pick up Punda was at a funeral.
But all the guys, and Corley, you've done an amazing job. I mean, I think 12 down and about, 18 missing, and you managed to track all the other oaks down. I mean, that's just amazing what you've done, Corley. So, Alan MacKenzie's a bit of an expert on absent friends. For some reason, the poor lad gets nominated to do this, and he has done before. But I really enjoyed getting to know Alan. I didn't know Alan at school, but I've got to know him obviously through the WhatsApp. And I mean, some of those acts are prolific. They don't fucking work. And so, PJ, I love you guys. You just kept me going. And it's just, and Dakota Trading. I'm sorry that he's not here. So I've got to know Alan through that, and also through his Facebook. I'm a bit of a Facebook, not a stalker, but a voyeur. I don't post very much. I just love seeing the feed and the read. And Alan, he's a decent bloke. He's a proper boy's heart boy. He's a good father, and he's got, you can just see the love come through, and he's really thoughtful about what he posts. So it's an honour to ask Alan MacKenzie to propose the toast to absent friends.
I'm one of the shorter guys. I was going to say, Glenn, I don't know what the story is, Glenn. It's like every year you get me to do something, or every time we have it, and I wish you'd choose something else, because I always get the heavies in. It's like, got to do something that doesn't work in here. And then when I saw Greg come up with his phone, I thought, yes, that will work. But clearly, I printed a set of notes just in case, because like the rest of you, our eyes are getting a little bit weak, and the strain goes, and eventually your phone screen's not big enough to be able to accommodate all the letters that it needs to get through stuff. So here we are. But before I suppose what I should do is greet all the guys. Not that we haven't seen each other for the last 2 days, and not that we didn't let our hair down yesterday, but whenever we get together as boys' night, whether it's a group down in the Eastern Cape, whether it's a group at the school, whether it's the 81 leaving group, whether it's like some of the rest of us guys. I did a practice lap, so I'm entitled to be here with the 80 group as well. And that first year was good. I think my highest mark in my first year of Form 1 was an H. Okay, so I just came here and I just loved the school. I wanted to stay here for my whole life. Kidding. Didn't happen. But anyway, here we are. And what one has to do is that even though most of us haven't stayed in touch with everybody else over these past 40 years, we can be considered friends. And what I wanted to do today is, just as I thought about it, because I went back on my 30-year notes and I thought, no, flip, if I read that out again, you know, somebody may have a better memory than what I've got, and they'll realize that I just jimmered it and, you know, brought the same thing again. So what I thought I'd do is to put it a little bit differently, and just to take an acronym and just have a look at friends from an acronym perspective. And what I did find is that few relations in Earth never die. And if you think about that there are very few relations in Earth that never die. Most of us cut ourselves off, or we build little walls around ourselves, and we don't allow ourselves really to become personal and intimate with others and with our surroundings and our identity. And so with us, as 40 years down the road, and just walking down this morning to go down to the fields and to go to Hofmeyer Oval and watch a little bit of cricket over there, I thought maybe I had to heckle these oaks. After we heard the scores yesterday, I thought, I'm going to heckle these boys. And they actually did really well. And by the time we left there, they were like on 250 or something. So, yeah, well done. They must have got a fright yesterday when they saw all these grey-haired oaks sitting up in the gallery listening to their cricket scores. And the differences were cricket scores. It's not like it's, you know, sometimes we play rugby and you get whacked and it's a cricket score. Well, what we heard yesterday, Greg, some cricket scores. So we've got to work on those. But when you have a look at us, there are very few relations that never die. Relationships, friendships, take a lot of work. And so what I did is I just broke down friends, and F, which some of you use prolifically, but I'm going to use a different F word over here, and just say faithful. That when everybody else stands against you, when nobody believes in you, a friend is somebody who sticks faithful to you, who remains faithful. The R for reliable. When others let you down and promise but don't deliver, they agree to do things for you but they disappoint. An I is for being instant, no delays, drop what you're doing, always at the ready to respond. An E for enduring, long-lasting, durable, patient, long-suffering. That's what friends are for. The N for being natural. It's not forced or coerced. It's not superficial, but it's genuine. The D for dependable, trustworthy, honest, truthful, someone to have confidence in. And S for being supportive, encouraging, caring, and considerate. And when I put those little words together into friends, I had to think about it and say that not all of us are personal friends. To be honest, only after I left school, I think I'd been out of school for about 5 or 10 years, and I came back and I drove through the grounds, and for the very first time it hit me what I'd actually experienced here as a lad. I didn't see the impact of it. When I left here, I had no intention of staying in touch with anybody else. My life was over. School was over. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. I never wanted to see a teacher in my life again. I never wanted to get a jack in my life again. It was just like, you know, it was gone. And only when I drove through here did I realize what the school had really given me. And what it had given me is a lifetime of friends. And we may not be personal friends. We may not share the same interests. We may not even be able to hold a conversation with one another. Not for more than a few minutes. Some of you guys really, I think we could, if we spend too much time together, we could actually irritate each other. But as a collective, as a group, some chaps, Adi only spent 3 years with us, but he's part of us. You may have spent 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Anybody else beat that record? Okay, we total that, we equal that record, but there's nobody here for 7. Not yet, but we didn't come and see it. So here we are. It doesn't matter if you were here, however long you were here, even more than that. As Pretoria boys in our class of 81, collectively we would be considered friends. And so our friendships are easily rekindled. The formation of the attributes that are listed today took us years to develop. And more often than not, we actually only realized this many years after and many years later what the true impact is that we had on one another's lives. And I may not remember things individually, but as we go on, we remember things that were taught us, and we remember things that happened in class. We remember sayings that got said and that impacted our lives. And so, it's like I said, I may not like some of your jokes. When it gets beneath the belt, I just cringe and I say, okay, well, these are just a bunch of boys that are getting together and having a good time. But I may not get your wit. I may have very little in common with you, but as I've both read and participated on our WhatsApp group for the past 8 months, there is no doubt in my mind that as a collective, we certainly qualify as friends. And so, putting that into to perspective, some of our friends have gone, and they've gone slowly into that dark night. They talked with us about the wonders of the world. They discussed history, sports, religion, love, war, and even family. They ran with us on the fields. We can only now watch over the fields like we did this morning as the next generation do exactly what we did. Not knowing that in 40 years from now, they too will be seated in these walls, thinking back, watching the new young men that are going to replace them as the older crew go out. Some of them also wondering what could have been if their friends were not taken so soon. And so in the words of George Eliot, he says, our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. And that needed to sink in with me a little bit, is that our dead are never dead until we have forgotten them. Let's not forget them. So who can forget the impact when the lives of 3 young boys are taken from among them? When they hear it on the nightly news, or arrive at school on a beautiful, fresh Pretoria morning, only to be shattered by the fact that death has visited our peers, our friends. Yesterday, as we made our way through the school, and we moved towards the new library and the music center, which is absolutely beautiful, I couldn't resist making a stop. And the stop that I made was at the Wall of Remembrance. And as we went to the Wall of Remembrance, the names of the boys that were with us, all clearly displayed: Peter Carter, Gavin Badger, Polly Dominguez. All 3 of them, boys that were taken too soon. And as I stood there looking at those names, it's amazing the memories that just flashed back. And I was probably, I wasn't close to Peter and I wasn't close to Gavin, but I was close to Polly. And I remembered, it's my grandfather who worked at BMW, who sold them that 45R that Polly so loved. And my parents wouldn't let me near that bike. I had moved to Arcadia, but I grew up at the railway station in Pretoria, in a place called Berea Park. And Polly's brother Tony had been at school with me. And Tony had been, I think lots of Portuguese guys arrived. I mean, we were speaking yesterday, Mark and I, about soccer, and Hamilton Primary could never play footies until about 1974-75, when Angola and Mozambique just erupted and all the Portuguese came down. And the next thing, Hamilton and Burgerite and Pretoria West and all of those schools were just full of Portuguese, and I started to see some footies that I hadn't experienced before. And we actually started to do okay. We learned to play a bit of footies, but Tony came. Tony needed some special, he needed some special input, and Tony and I became friends, and through Tony I became friends with Polly. And I had looked after Tony at Hamilton, and when I got here, Polly felt it necessary to look after me for whatever reason. So we did that. I even stopped playing footies for Berea Park for a season or two and joined Polly so that I could get a ride with him and his mom in the orange Merc, or get a ride down on the bike in the morning. So all of those memories are there because we were friends. What I also remember is doing technical drawings. And Polly used to, I mean, I was a bad student, but I think Polly, like, I think him and I competed for like the bottom of the rungs. And Polly never, he couldn't draw the thing, so he'd come to me, and you know, if you got into trouble over there with Mr. Stain, it wasn't pleasant. So Polly used to just say, he'd say to me, I'll come fetch you early, we go out to school, and then we had these little drawing boards, and we had to quickly do the drawing. So I did mine at home, and it was careful, and then I'd get here, and I'd quickly, just in 5 minutes, do what I thought was right, and give it enough so that it looked like Polly's. And he kept on scoring more than what I did. This is insane. Eventually you want to kind of like swap out the stuff and do it. So all of those memories come from standing and looking at a name on a wall. So as I go through the names of the boys that were at school with us, and only 3 of them left us while we were at school, and subsequent to that there's been a number more. In total, the total number now is 16, which out of a group our size, after 40 years, that's still a very good number. 16 is actually a very good number. So as I go through the names, and I'm going to do them alphabetically by their surnames, just allow that name as a collective of friends to be able to just jog some memories. Because, as George Eliot said, our dead are never dead to us until we forget them. So let's not forget them. Here they are. Richard Armstrong, and Gavin Biagio, Helmut Binding, Corrado Caminante, Keith Canning, Peter Carter, Polly Dominguez, Clint Dreyer, Greg Hawken, Christopher Johnson, Keith McFarlane, Adrian Miniver, Herman Willefew, Evan Parker, Graham Poole, Andre van der Valk. Chaps, those are our buddies, they're our friends, they're our comrades, they are men who spend time with us. And so there may yet be others of whom we have not heard, and as my eyes ran across the list that Glenn sent out, I couldn't help but wonder where those chaps are with whom we have no contact. There may yet be others that we don't know about. But now, some 40 years later, we who gather here today and stand as part of a brotherhood of men, joined in life through this wonderful school, represented on every continent. We heard the ambassadors that are here today, and in many countries, many occupations, many stations of life, we once again stand together as we raise our glasses and say in unity, you're our friends, you're not forgotten. We're not going to do that yet because I'm not quite finished, are you? You give me the mic and you're going to run out of time. So 67, from what I counted on Glenn's list, 67 of our number have sent their apologies. Is that right?
Yeah.
That was the number, 67 sent apologies. That's a good number. You take the number that we've got, the 67, and we're already looking at 120 chaps out of our year. The 16, you know, that's 136. There's 21 that remain unaccounted for, despite our very best efforts of making contact with them. And so some have passed away and some remain unaccounted for, and some would love to be here with us today, put in their apologies, even sent a note to be read out today. Some have just simply moved on. One or two of the chaps that we've had contact with have just said, listen, oh, life's moved on, and so have I. You know, mark me absent. And so respectfully, we do that. Doesn't change the fact that they still remain our friends. We are inextricably bound as a brotherhood of friends. And so I want to leave a final thought with you today, because those who have already passed on have left their mark. There's nothing that they can add or take away from their lives. The impact that they had on us and that they had on their loved ones, the good and the bad, it's all over. They can no longer be a friend to anyone. We, however, who still have breath in our lungs and blood in our veins, who carry the burdens and the joy of life on our shoulders, we still have time to be friends. By this stage of life, you would have realized that life is a leveler. And I don't care what you've achieved in your life. That's not what we're here for. And quite frankly, I don't care where you failed either, because that's not either what I'm here for. It's been at least 40 years that we've been part of this unique group of, collectively as a group of friends. So based on the very simple acronym that I use today, I want to encourage us to be a friend. In the next 5-10 years from now, when we gather again, we've said that because of the COVID thing, we're going to try and do this again and get the lads who couldn't make it this year, to get them here before our 50th. But if we go through the next 5 or 10 years, when we gather again on this leading group of 81, that list of 16 names is very likely to have grown. Our chance of being a friend would have been reduced. And so I want you to look around the room today, make a decision and say, I'm going to be a friend. I want to be a friend to the chaps. We may have very little in common. If the school is the only thing that we have, in my case, coming from the other side of the tracks, I can't begin to explain the impact that this school had on my life. I can't begin to explain the impact that some of you chaps had on my life. And not only while we were at school, but when we left school, there was, and I may not remember all the names, but Pudding was with us, Damon was with us, Toddy was with us, there was Crozer, there was Gavin Cross, there was Kevin Perkins, there was myself, and there was somebody else who I forget. There were 8 of us that landed up sleeping in the same tent, in the same bungalow. We landed up in the Air Force together. And I learned some stuff about chaps that I'd seen at school. And I learned some lessons, and things that have stood us in good stead. And so my encouragement to us today is, whatever your boyhood memories are of me and of everybody else, put them aside. And whatever your expectation is of anybody else, put it aside and just be a friend. And so to those who couldn't be here today, who are part of us, we want to propose a toast to them. I'm going to ask you all to rise and to absent friends with us and those who have gone before us, to our friends.